Welcome, everybody, to our October Town Hall, the first one after RAGBRAI 52. As you can tell, we are back to classic branding. No more take flight. We are moving on to RAGBRAI 53 and full speed ahead, planning for 2026. The team has been busy since July, and we have a lot of exciting updates to share, and can't wait to get them shared with you. So to start, meeting the team, obviously we have our ride director, Matt Phippen, myself, our Hayden Meister, our marketing and manager, and Just Go Bike podcast host, Andrea Parrott, graphic designer, Corey Much, registration and merchandise manager, Erica Detterman, and customer service and coach, Aaron Oliphant. For those of you that joined us before the ride, you may see a few updates here. We have had a few updates to our team. Laura Rice, who used to host our town halls, has taken a new opportunity that's super exciting for her. So we're super happy for her and look forward to that. And they're working on filling a couple positions, as well as Ann Lowry, our cycling director. So working on filling those positions, hope to have a few more faces added to this slide here soon. But like I said, the team that we do have is working full speed ahead and are excited for what we have. If you haven't already, just in order to ask questions throughout the town hall tonight, just got to make sure that you're registered. You can attend the event without being registered, but you just have to make sure you're registered in order to access the Q&A feature. So if you haven't already, you can go ahead and scan that QR code. That'll take you to the registration link, and that'll activate the Q&A for you. And as always, we love to push our newsletter. So if you haven't as well, this QR code will take you to our RAGBRAI monthly newsletter with all sorts of fun updates throughout the year. You don't want to miss it. AP puts all sorts of good details in there, and I know she's got some fun stuff coming out here in October. So if you want to be clued in on a lot of those exciting details, make sure you signed up for that newsletter and stay up to date with us. So with that, we are going to pass to Matt, and he is going to kind of give us a recap of 52 and what we're looking forward to in 53.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Hayden. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's really crazy to sit here tonight and think that it's October 9th, soon Halloween, soon Thanksgiving, soon Christmas, and then our year will start over again. The ride is now 2 months behind us, and in my role, this has probably been the best RAGBRAI that I've ever been a part of from a director standpoint. And it might even been one of the best RAGBRAIs as a whole for over 52 years. We had amazing communities en route, and we were hit with every possible thing that could happen on outdoor ride. We had heat, which that's July in Iowa. We had humidity, which July in Iowa. But we had some days some sustained headwinds that came out of just different directions that we're not usually used to on a RAGBRAI. But we always watch social media, and from day one through the end, social media was very positive. And I challenge you, if you can find something negative on social media, send it our way, because we just really didn't see things that were crazy. The spirit of RAGBRAI was super strong every single day. And I truly believe it goes back to the towns. The towns did all the small things so right. The day of what we call Windy Wednesday, where they had a 15-mile-an-hour headwind for 70 miles. Once the riders got into these towns, the towns were so excited and so prepared that it made the last 10 miles, the last 15 miles, the last 50, the last 70 miles not that bad. And I saw it every single day on route. Towns could not wait to show off what they've been working so hard on. So kind of just dive into some numbers. We registered 18,346. This is not normally a number that we share, but it's a number that we're proud of. So we wanted to share that today with you. We had representation from all 50 states and 20 countries. Our oldest rider was 92 years old, and our youngest was 5 years old. And we got a message from the wife of the gentleman that rode, and she said, God willing, he'll be back next year, and God willing, she'll be back to drive him across and get him across the state safely. So super excited that they'll be back. It's great to see the younger riders come through. The average age of our riders is 52 years old. We saw a lot of families and a lot of younger demographic on the route, which is fantastic for our ride and the overall growth going forward. This kind of just breaks down where all the riders came from. Obviously, a big number come from the state of Iowa, but there's some massive numbers around the United States. We are truly proud to say that we lock in all 50 states year after year and the amount of riders that come in from overseas. The one number that's not on there is the amount of bandit riders that just show up and participate in the ride. And that's something that we're always trying to fix and show the value of why they need to register. When Erica talks about registration numbers in future, town halls, you'll find out that RAGBRAI is pretty inexpensive when you compare it to other major rides in the United States. But good representation from Minnesota. Obviously, that was a big thing for us this year, dipping into Minnesota. It gave us the ability to take a ride that we love into a state that borders us. This kind of just breaks down the overall, where the riders came from and the states that supported us. We know that without our towns, we do not have a ride. And to have successful towns, we need to support them. So years and years and years ago, before I was in this role, and a lot of this team was in this role, overnight towns received $8,500 from RAGBRAI. And they were kind of expected to pull off this monster event. The meeting towns, the pass-through towns, didn't receive any funding. So over the last 3 years, we've modified our budgets to make sure that we can support these towns. So if you look at the breakdown, our overnight towns, and there's 8 of them, will receive $50,000 from RAGBRAI. Once they sign on, we present them the checks, usually in that first couple of meetings in February and March, and they use that money to invest in their community and help start the event. Meeting towns, this year we had 5. A normal RAGBRAI, there could be up to 7 with one every day. They will receive $10,000 from RAGBRAI. Pass-through towns, we had 24 pass-through towns. Each pass-through town will receive $5,000 from RAGBRAI. Counties is a spot that we want to focus on and build better relationships with. And with counties comes the sheriff and engineers that help us keep the roads safe. So this year we took $5,000 and split it between the sheriff's department and the county engineer. Next year we're going to make some changes. Emergency management in every one of our counties played a major role this year. We asked them to build emergency plans for the counties that they oversee. In previous years, every town kind of built their own emergency management plan. And as you kind of know, every plan looked different fonts, colored paper. So we wanted the counties to have a universal form that they can use, that we can then know if wherever we need to go from a emergency standpoint, shelters, it was all consistent across the board. They played a major role. So we're going to give next year counties $6,000, $2,000 will go to the engineer, $2,000 to emergency management, and $2,000 to the sheriff's department. And this is just our way of saying thank you. We had counties this year that we are in for one turn that didn't really have any county support from a sheriff's standpoint. That sheriff's department still received the fund because down the road we're probably going to come back, and it's just our way of saying thank you. So we're kind of waiting to see where that money lands. I know there was some sheriff's departments that were looking at K9 units, different supplies that the sheriff's department needed. So it was great for us to be able to find ways to give back to them. Care Ambulance, Department of Transportation, and Iowa State Patrol, we pay for them to be on route with us. Obviously, without the Department of Transportation and the Iowa State Patrol, our roads are not safe. So we start the planning process with them early on. Care Ambulance, you see those guys and gals on the roads. They're the ones that are there. If you guys fall down and get hurt, they're there to pick you back up and get you back on the road. And we cannot do this without the Iowa State Patrol. 2 teams, roughly about 20 troopers total. We have a turn-by-turn that keeps you safe on the road so you can get lost in Iowa and check out all the surroundings. And then we have a team that kind of tails the route to make sure the ride is moving forward. So our goal is every year to be able to give back roughly about $1 million back to our communities and our partner agencies. And every year we're trying to find ways to give back more. So looking ahead, obviously we are officially putting RAGBRAI LII to bed. We're going to start looking at RAGBRAI 53. This is my speedometer in the RAGBRAI truck. I believe this was last week. I was on the road for one day, 530 miles, 10 hours and 36 minutes. And I joke that, when most people do 10 hours in a vehicle and travel that long, they're going somewhere on vacation. And for me, it's not. My vacation basically is driving around the state of Iowa, looking at trucks, checking out communities, flying kind of under the radar. I peeled off the RAGBRAI logo. So if you see this gray truck driving around a community, there's no more RAGBRAI logo on it. So it could be just a random gray truck. We are also looking at, trading this vehicle off because we bought this vehicle brand new in 2022. And I have 125 or 130,000 miles on it. Oh, it's right there, 126,249. So it's getting to the point where we need a new vehicle. We're trading it off. But right now, I am scouting communities. We have routes built that myself, the DOT, and the State Patrol have already looked at. We're looking at towns to make sure that we can get there. We're getting applications from towns that are excited to host riders or want to host riders. If you're on a call and you're part of a town that wants to host, you can go to our ragbrai.com and there's a host tab that you can actually fill out a form that we can kind of keep an eye on to see if you have all the infrastructure in order to pull this off. But for right now, my next 2 months are going to be a lot of time behind the steering wheel, looking at roads, checking out conditions, looking at projects that the DOT have been working on, by keeping everything as secretive as possible. So routes do not get leaked. So our goal going forward is we'll release the route officially on January 24th, but we'll talk more about that later. A lot of things happening right now in the world of RAGBRAI.
All right, it's my turn to take the reins of the presentation. Excuse me, I'm excited to get to present this slide. It's all about Honor Flight, which was the RAGBRAI Gives recipient of RAGBRAI 2025. If you don't know what Honor Flight is, you can see a little description of it here on the screen, but essentially it's a nonprofit that takes veterans to Washington, D.C. to see all the monuments that they have there and show them some appreciation for their service. So it's a really, really cool thing for the veterans. The veterans pay nothing to be involved. And as you can see, we raised almost $45,000 for these veterans, and this organization. And the money went only to Honor Flight Iowa. So there is a national network, but we kept it within Iowa because we want to support Iowa veterans. This fundraising campaign is really cool to me because next week, my Just Go Bike podcast co-host Kathy Murphy and I are going to go on Honor Flight. We're not veterans, but we're going to be what's called guardians, and that means that we help the veterans assist them in whatever they need as they take their trip to Washington, D.C. So, carrying heavy items, making sure we pack umbrellas, buying them snacks, and just sort of supporting them as they go on their trip. I'm really sorry my dog is barking in the background. Rex likes Honor Flight too. So it's a really cool organization. I encourage you to check it out if you haven't already, and just to support our veterans. All right, so then my next slide is just sort of a recap of what the 2025 RAGBRAI was all about. We had a really successful year in our social media. It was a really fun year, and I think it shows in the numbers. As you can see, we had honestly shocking amount of impressions. We had 30 million impressions on social media. It makes you a little bit nervous when you've realized that that many people might be looking at your work, but it's so fun and it's so rewarding to help share the good news of RAGBRAI. It's so much fun. I mean, I just love being able to show off the state of Iowa to the world. We also were working on, our team worked on email marketing. We had almost 2 million impressions on email marketing. Thank you to everyone who signs up for our newsletter, reads our newsletter, clicks on those links. I appreciate you. It's also a great way to get news, especially if you're new to RAGBRAI, the world of RAGBRAI. Sign up to our newsletter and it will help you get all the latest info and just sort of stay in the loop as you get closer to RAGBRAI. So you be in the know once you get to the ride. During the month of RAGBRAI, or month of July, we had 743,000 website users. So a lot of people come to our website. Website's a great place to find maps if you don't know that already. If you need a map of the GPS route, map of the overnight town, anything like that, great place to find that. Also, great place now this time of year to find information on registration. We also this year we had an all new RAGBRAI app. So we had just over 6,000 people use the RAGBRAI app. I'd encourage you to download that next year when you head out on RAGBRAI, because the really nice thing about that app is it has all the information from the website and from a lot from social media, and it works without the cell signal. So that's really nice. For those of you who have ridden RAGBRAI before, you may know that it can be tough to get a cell reception in the middle of Iowa on RAGBRAI. So use the app. It's really great. We also used it for sort of a less fun purpose, but really important purpose, in that there were a couple of storms during RAGBRAI this year, and we used the app to notify people of the closest storm shelter location. So it is important in that way too. Then kind of continuing on the slide, like I said, I am the co-host for the Just Go Bike podcast. It's a podcast about the fun things about RAGBRAI and helping people train for RAGBRAI and talking about the towns that we'll visit along the way and things like that. So encourage you to check that out. We had about 116,000 social media impressions, so doesn't really crack up to 30 million from the RAGBRAI page, but look, we're happy with that number, especially with the fact that we had 103,000 people listens to the podcast. That was really awesome, and it means a lot. Thank you to anyone who's listened. In that photo, you can see myself and Kathy Murphy, along with two of our fans who came all the way from Georgia to say hi to us. So that was really cool. And then to kind of round out this page, we had a lot of press coverage about RAGBRAI this year. We're lucky enough that the people in the news want to talk about us. And we love that. And I love to share that on our social pages too. So we had almost 730 unique articles about RAGBRAI. And if you follow us on social, you'll see that I've been sharing them kind of regularly as we go through, just to try to get some more coverage for those. But all sorts of really great articles, really interesting articles. Obviously, I'd suggest starting with the Des Moines Register, but check your local paper too. You never know. And we had about 1.14 billion total impressions all told. So that was pretty cool. Thanks for everybody who follows us on Facebook. Thanks for everybody who reads about us in the paper, listens to the podcast, any of that. I noticed none of you have asked any questions yet, so please go ahead and ask us a question if you're registered for this town hall, because I'll be watching in the questions and answers. Thank you.
On to me, everyone. So looking ahead, now that we've kind of recapped RAGBRAI 2025, looking for next year. So this year we are hosting our annual logo launch party that will be at RAGBRAI HQ on Saturday, November 8th. We'll launch the new logo for RAGBRAI LII, and you're all welcome to the office to come and check us out.
Quick plug, the office has had a fresh coat of paint, new sidewalks, new landscaping. So if you're driving by the office in Des Moines, make sure you check that out. It looks really awesome.
Perfect. And then after logo launch, we'll open registration. So registration always historically opens on November 15th. We'll continue to open that this year. So for those of you who are already prepped and ready to come on RAGBRAI, I highly encourage you to register during that first price tier, or the early bird pricing as we call it. Just like we've done the last several years, we'll do pricing increases as we get a little bit closer to the ride. So the best value for your buck is going to be to register earlier in the year. So for those RAGBRAI diehards who come no matter what the route is, I definitely recommend registering as early as you can. Week-long rider registration will start out at $230, and day passes will start at $45 a day. As we get closer to the ride, we will increase registrations on the first of the month. So as you can see here, we will increase on January 1st, then March 1st, April 1st, May 1st, and then June 1st. Something new this year is we are leaving registration open after June 1st clear up until the ride, where you can go in and register for a week-long rider or a week-long non-rider pass only. Then those people will be able to pick up that at the expo. So something completely new this year. If you decide to hop on last minute and join us, you'll be able to register online and then pick up at the expo. If you're a day rider, we don't often have the capability of getting that to you on the ride. So we ask that you register in person, either at the expo or any of the RAGBRAI merchandise or information tents along the way. All that information will be solidified a lot more as we get closer to the ride and we figure out what that expo town is and what our towns are, where those locations are. So you have plenty of opportunity between now and July to register. And then again this year, all registration packets will be mailed to the individual. So if you register before that June 1st date, we'll send that packet directly to you. And it's our goal to get all of those out to you by the 4th of July weekend. And then I'm actually going to send the next slide over to Erin, who has got some great information about some other registration updates from this year.
So for those of you who don't know, last year was our first year that we did not allow transfers, and it had nothing to do with the fact that we were being money hungry or we were trying to pull one over on our riders. It all had to do with the fact that we had a lot of people wanting to do our ride who were being scammed by people on Facebook and other just selling platforms, of scammers being like, hey, I'll sell you my wristband for $200, just Venmo me. And they would Venmo them and they would never have been registered and they weren't able to participate in RAGBRAI. At that time, we didn't have a way in our system where people could safely exchange money on there. But this year we've worked really, really hard in the last couple of months to come up with a solution to this problem. So this year we're excited to announce that transfers are back. So if you're not able to make the ride last minute, you are able to transfer your wristband to somebody else. What's new this year is that the money will actually be exchanged in our Enmotive platform. So what will happen is the original registrant will send you a transfer link to your email. At that time, you will pay what they paid for their registration. That will go in Enmotive, and that original registrant will be refunded. So there's no need anymore to exchange money through sources like Venmo, PayPal, whatever. We take care of all that for you, so you don't have to worry about it. We're really excited to be able to bring this back for you guys, and do it safely and in a way where you guys don't have to worry about being scammed.
Thank you, Erin, for all your hard work on getting that back for our riders. Before I finish up things here, I do want to showcase some of our brand new fall merchandise items. So we launched this a little bit earlier this month with our, or last month actually, with our Great Iowa Fall Ride here that goes through HQ. So all of the things you need for this upcoming fall weather that we are now having. And not pictured is one of my favorite new items, which is the Windy Wednesday t-shirt that just dropped this afternoon. So if you rode on Wednesday this year of RAGBRAI and you want a little commemorative piece of that day and to tell that story, you can go ahead and check out our online store, shop.ragbrai.com. And also, if you're looking for a good deal, we are also having an online garage sale that starts tomorrow. So from tomorrow, October 10th through the 13th, we have an online garage sale. Our garage sale that we do in person at the fall ride is always so popular, but we hear a lot of complaints from people who aren't local or close to Des Moines and aren't able to join us in person. So we decided to bring the online garage sale to you guys. So that will be from the 10th through the 13th. A lot of good items are on sale, and we'll do free shipping over any order over $75. So go ahead and check that out. That'll start tonight and then go all the way until the 13th at midnight. And then back over to Hayden.
Perfect. Thank you, Erica. One of the more exciting things we are ready to announce is our RAGBRAI route announcement party, the one that happens every year in January. As you can see, this year will be January 24th. That is a Saturday at Vibrant Music Hall. That is the same venue that we did it at last year, and you can see a lot of these pictures on the slide are from. It was a really awesome venue to work with. The acoustics were great. The lighting was awesome. really elevated experience in there. So excited to be able to do that again and partner with Vibrant. We're currently in the process of selecting our bands and getting food and everything else ready for that. So our registration for the route announcement party will open on November 15th, along with ride registration. So if you're registering for RAGBRAI, you could also register for the route announcement party and just knock out two birds with one stone. But looking forward to doing that again. Always a fun time. Always fun to see familiar faces that we don't always get to see throughout the year. So hope to see everybody there. And then last but not least, our next town hall is going to be 2 days before registration opens. So we'll be able to touch on a lot more information as it relates to the ride registration, as it relates to the route announcement. Obviously, we'll take some time to answer some questions here tonight. And then that November town hall will be another time to be able to ask questions. I know that we have quite a few questions from a lot of first-time riders, support drivers. So anything that you want to get answered before you book your ticket, we'll be there for you. Just make sure you get registered. And as always, we'll have that registration information shared on our websites and various other platforms. So that brings us to the end of the presentation portion. Obviously, we are in the off season a little bit, but it's funny because everyone always asks us what we're doing outside of July, which is staying busy, planning for 2026. 2025 is wrapped up, and we are full speed ahead. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that goes into that 1 week, and it's a magical week. So we want to do everything in our power to make sure that we pull through and deliver for you guys again next year. So with that, we'll open it up to some of the predetermined questions we had submitted, and then we'll also get to a few in the Q&A if any of those aren't able to get answered as we kind of move along. So I'm going to throw these to AP as just kind of a general first-time rider, kind of riding solo. What are recommendations? What should they be looking out for? Are there other solo riders, or are there other participants of a group, and how can they enjoy their first RAGBRAI?
Well, sure, there are a ton of other solo riders. People ride that way a lot, so don't feel like you're alone in that. One of the catchphrases of RAGBRAI that you'll hear people say a lot is you're going to meet 10,000 of your new best friends. So people are super friendly, both town people and cyclists. So just get ready for that. If you really want to start out the ride with a built-in team or like group of friends, I'd recommend looking at the RAGBRAI charters. You can find information on that on the ragbrai.com website. Does cost a little bit extra because you will be getting extra services, but you'll have an automatic group of people to go hang out with every evening. So that's one thing I'd recommend. Or you could probably check with your local bike shops. Almost all the big cities across the US have bike clubs based out of their bike shops, and a lot of them have RAGBRAI riders. Easy way to meet some other riders. Or you can just show up and meet people, because that's a fun way to do it too.
Perfect. Thank you, AP. Question from the chat. I'm going to give this one to Matt. Why are there no longer any big name bands on RAGBRAI, or at least recently?
Sure. So for those that book bands and book talent, you learn very quickly that it's very expensive. By the time you secure a stage, find the talent, pay for production, you're spending tens of thousands of dollars, and it's up to the town to determine how crazy they want to go. Obviously, like I said earlier, we give them $50,000 in seed money up front in order to help offset some of those expenses. But the last thing that I want them to do is book a $50,000 band, and now they're passing the hat at church to find money to raise for all the other things that are going to come in. We learned this year that a band that costs roughly about $8,500 brings just as many people as a band that is pretty significant. During the 50th, we paid for all the bands across the state to offset that expense. I believe we booked Leonard Skinner for $750,000, and the Pork Tees packed the house just like they did. And Leonard Skinner, for the most part, I believe they're all dead. So it was basically just a tribute band, where the Pork Tees, they're all young and fresh and thriving, and they're one of the biggest hits on RAGBRAI. So it truly is up to the towns to decide what direction they want to go. A lot of times these towns will chase sponsorships that will help offset some of those costs. But what we learned is if you have a band that can play some good hits, get people to dance, the party's already there and the town can be successful. So, going forward, like I said, it's truly up to the town. They make the call and we support their decisions. And the goal is to have a great, fun experience.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. Going to keep it right there with you and anyone else that may want to chime in. But any plans for dealing with unregistered riders, or as we like to call them, bandits?
That is one of the biggest hot button topics year after year. And I think in 53 years, this is not something that's new. This is something that's been going on for a while. From our perspective, it's showing the riders what the value of RAGBRAI is. And, Erica showed you kind of the registration numbers, $230 to punch your ticket, all the way up to $400 the day of. If you look at truly what that gets you, that's pretty inexpensive. I did a ride in Florida, I want to say 2 Christmases ago, and it was over $1,000. And I felt less supported. I was on 4-lane highways that I didn't feel as safe on. But there is tons of value around RAGBRAI. We have State Patrol that is on every turn, making sure that vehicle traffic is off the road, keeping you safe. We have a team that's moving the ride along, so we're not getting caught out too late at night. When you go to the towns have porta potties waiting for you. Now, we don't have a 1-to-1 ratio for porta potties, so there will be lines for porta potties, but definitely a service that the towns provide. Care ambulance is en route too, so if you do go down in your registered rider, they want to swoop in and get you back cleaned up as fast as possible and back on the road. And then if you do take an ambulance ride, Bob and that team help offset some of those costs. Every year we have tons of lost and found that comes in. And if you're a registered rider, we find it, you see it on our website, we ship it to you for free and you get it back. I'm so impressed by the amount of wallets that get turned in with all of the cash and credit cards still in those wallets, and it's all coming back to you. But if you think that everything that goes into RAGBRAI from being a full year of planning and working with the towns, there obviously is tons of expenses. From our perspective, we want to be able to give back $1 million year after year, and we have the ability to give back more, but we need more of those riders to help register, because from our perspective, how it works is November 15th, we open registration. The registration money starts coming in, and it basically goes back out in checks to those communities. So we want to make sure that the commitments that we have with the towns and our partner agencies are paid for right out of the gate, and we need those riders to register. But there's nothing worse than standing in a line for a porta potty and you're a registered rider and there's 5 people that are ahead of you using that same porta potty with no band on the wrist. You want to be able to just walk right by them and show them your band and go from there. But the goal that we have is continue to show the value of RAGBRAI. Some of our teams that traditionally didn't register are now registering because they've seen the value of what we're trying to do. Support the ride that supports the towns. I heard a story a couple of years ago where we had a team that told their entire group of riders that everybody needs to register this year, otherwise you can't be a part of the team. And there was one gentleman that had been around the ride for many, many years, and he was fighting it that he never registers. He pays taxes in Iowa. He doesn't need to register for this ride. And the team-based captain said, if you don't register, you can't ride with us. So he ended up registering, and he took an ambulance ride with Bob and his team. He went down and got hurt, and Care Ambulance was there to get into the hospital, get him taken care of. And he just said, you know what? I never ever thought I would use these services. I'm so glad I punched my ticket this year. I will always punch my ticket going forward. But when these bandits show up, they're taking money out of the towns. They're taking money that we could reinvest in these communities and making it harder for us to plan. We are very transparent with the towns. Every time we go to a community, which is roughly 20 times across the state in the course of a year, we tell them exactly where we land with the numbers. And the one question they have is, well, what about the extras that just show up? What do we do with them? And we can only do so much. So, they can't order double the amount of porta potties because from a budget standpoint, they just can't make that work. So if you have someone that doesn't register for the ride, that just shows up, find ways to show them the value and why they need to support the ride that supports the towns, and we can help give back more to these communities.
Awesome. And the more education we can get out there, whether it's coming from us or whether on our social medias or whether it's coming from riders that have been participating with RAGBRAI for years, we can use as much help as we can to fight those bandits. A couple questions surrounding lodging that I could answer, but I think we're going to make Corey chime in here since he's been pretty quiet. So I'm a first-time rider for 2026 and will be doing the ride with my family. My main questions involve an overview of lodging with RVs, as well as other options that don't include bringing my own tent.
Well, I would say try tent camping. It's what RAGBRAI is all about, but I don't really have any room to talk because I never did it tent camping either. So I just get to spend all my time in the campgrounds now with RAGBRAI. So I get to see the fun that's happening in there. As far as other options, you know, if you're Johnny on the spot about booking those hotel rooms the night of route announcement, good luck. There's that option, but they go pretty quick. As far as RVs go, you know, that's all kind of dependent on what the towns have to offer. Obviously, RVs are becoming more and more and more over the years. So we're working with the towns to try to be sure that they have enough space for these RVs, and that's also why we sell the vehicle passes too, so we can you know, forward warn the towns of how many RVs are coming. That gives us an idea, and it gives them an idea, so we don't have issues. I would say RV camping is a great option. Again, all is going to depend on each town that we go to this year and what they have for availability. But you know, it always seems to be. Even last year, I heard most of the RV parking areas were still, there was space available. If they weren't available in the main one, they were moving to other areas. So yeah, does that answer that question?
I think you did great.
Okay. But give camping a try too. I mean, tent camping, hey, why not?
Yes, Erica.
I will also throw in that some charters will set up your tent for you. So if you just don't want to set up your tent, check out some of them. It is a higher price point, as AP mentioned. But if you just want to come in, have your tent all set up and ready, go ahead and check out our charter page on the website.
And we'll throw another one to you, Erica. Can you explain how the refund policy works?
Yep. So our refund policy goes in tiers or waves. The earlier that you ask for a refund, we give you a full refund minus our processing fees. So processing fees through Emotive is a percentage of what you purchase. So a processing fee for a week-long non-rider who has a smaller fee to start out with is going to be cheaper than the processing fee of a week-long rider. So if you ask for a refund up until that first wave of them, we'll give you a full refund back to you. After that date, then we go to a 75% back. So we will keep 25% for our fee of cancellation, and then 75% will go back to you, and so on and so forth for that processing fee. We are currently working on updating our website to have all of the current price tiers and dates and all of that updated, but we'll have that done shortly. The other thing that I did forget to mention during that slide is that we also do offer a registration protection plan. That is non-refundable, but it does qualify for you to get a full refund if you meet any of those qualifications. So if you get in an accident or are unable to make it for any of those qualifications, you know, I had somebody, unfortunately, I know, who was unable to come on the ride because they broke their foot, and they had that protection plan, so they were able to get a full refund. So kind of looking at that when you register. If you have any specific questions that I haven't been able to answer about the registration or refund policy, feel free to email me at erica@ragbrai.com, or you can email us at info@ragbrai.com as well.
Thank you, Erica. We got about one or two more questions here. May end a little early tonight since we are a little bit in our slower season. But rounding out the night, will there be any plant-based food options in each town? I could see this one being Matt or Aaron.
Yeah, I can take it, definitely. We work with the towns to find as many different unique options as possible. A misconception about RAGBRAI that I love to set straight is the towns keep all the vendors' processing charges for setting up in their community. So nothing goes back to RAGBRAI, it all stays in the town. So we help the town find vendors that make sense. Obviously, looking at the route, the first 25 miles-ish is usually looked at as a breakfast community. So your big breakfast vendors are going to be there. So your Chris Cakes will pay that community to be a part of their event and be set up. To answer your question as a whole, it's hard to get all different kinds of options. There was some different options this year. I saw a lobster roll, I think the first time ever on RAGBRAI. $30 for a lobster roll. I heard they were fantastic. I never had one, but they were definitely en route. But the towns want to find as many different unique options as possible, and not step on any of the toes of their local vendors. So if you have a great pizza joint in your community, you're not bringing in really anybody else that can serve pizza. You're finding other options for riders. One thing that I learned this year, it's something we have to fix going forward, is we need to bring our best versions of ourselves to Iowa on a bicycle. Too many times, riders are not eating enough and drinking enough to sustain their body for a day or for a week. And then they're taking ambulance rides to the hospital because their body is shutting down. So from a town standpoint, we're trying to find as many different food vendors as possible that make sense. The way I'm building a route now, if I can average roughly about 10 miles between towns, that seems to be the sweet spot. So we don't have these huge, food deserts where people can't get the stuff that they need. But you also have to understand, you got to take care of yourself. So, if you're a rider that likes specific things, make sure you do right and bring some of those things with you along the way. It's great to have extra bars in your pocket. I know a lot of towns are making, the protein balls that you can take with you and move on down the road. A lot of bananas we see across the state, but we do work with the towns to help find them options. If they're struggling, we get them in contact with other vendors. A lot of food trucks have been popping up lately, but my pitch is, if you're coming next year, make sure you do right by us, because we're going to try to do right by you. Eat plenty during the day, drink plenty of water, and the biggest thing is, don't start drinking water the day before you leave. Drink water in excess months prior, getting your body ready to go, because misconception, it's hot in Iowa in July. People still aren't really realizing that. And it's also, there's hills too. So you throw that in the mix and then you had a headwind. I don't care how strong you are, that day can be tough on you. So just make sure that you're putting good stuff into your body. You're always going to find Mr. Pork Chop. You're always going to find those key things on the route, but make sure you're putting the fruit and the other good things in your body too.
Perfect. And then I think we will round the night out. Matt, we're going to keep you going. Can you just kind of keep going into kind of developing what you just said and what your thought process is going into building the route? We had a question about last day mileage, and figured we could just kind of go full circle and what you're looking for there.
I would love to tell you that I could build a perfect route that is 50 miles every day, 1,000 feet of climb, no more, no less, and it'd be easy for you. But unfortunately, that's not the case. I told the story many times. At the end of the season, I take a paper map, I lay it on my desk, I draw 3 lines on it to separate the state. I have a northern section, a central section, and a southern section. I then divide that up 7 ways, so 7 days across the state. Depending on where we went last year, I try to obviously find something new and different. The cool thing is we have towns now that are reaching out years in advance saying, hey, we're wrapping up projects. We would love riders to come visit in 27, 28, 26, whatever that looks like. But it's based around kind of the DOT and county projects that we know are on the table. I've seen a 5-year plan of projects that are happening. And my goal is, if we can get you guys on roads that are brand new because of projects that are happening last year for next year, that's a big win for us. We have some amazing roads in Iowa right now, and our job is to showcase them. But once I take the paper map, I then transport it into Iowa GPS, and it gives me my mileage, my elevation, all my turn by turn, and it has the towns. Right now, we have an application process that is out. Like I said, we'll close at the end of October of towns that are interested in hosting. And the hope is an application comes through with a town that could possibly be on the map in the area that we're looking. If that all checks out, it makes my job easier. Once we have that finalized map, it goes to the DOT, the State Patrol, and myself. And this team sits in a room for multiple hours and we go mile by mile. The DOT overlays the route with all their projects to see where the issues are going to be. The state of Iowa does not shut down for the month of July during RAGBRAI. We still have active roads. So when there's a route where riders are going to be riding their bicycles on, there has to be detoured routes because traffic has to go somewhere. So we have to constantly be looking at, if this is going to be the RAGBRAI route, what would the detour option be if there is an accident or we need to move cars somewhere else, and how that works. I will tell you that a route on a piece of paper, it looks amazing, but it's not perfect and it's going to change. This is going to be my 5th year building routes. For the most part, the routes change roughly about 7 times. By the time that we go from the start with a paper map to the end, it'll evolve roughly about 7 times. Mother Nature plays a role. Obviously, we've had years with flooding and bad things that have happened to the roads where roads do change. We've had towns that have had issues where we can't go to them, so we have to find a way to redirect and find towns that make sense. As you know, depending on where you go in the state, sometimes there are towns in close proximity. Sometimes there's towns that are 20 miles plus away. And what you told me is you don't want to ride on gravel. So we can't just take you on a gravel road to get you there. We got to find ways to route you around. So my goal that I have is we basically fine tune the route all the way up till June, our pre-ride when we ride it on bicycles. And that will be the last time that we can give you the most accurate map. It's released to everybody. Usually we release it in later July. We release it earlier so you can get it downloaded and get it ready for the ride. The way that I route every day is from RAGBRAI main campground to RAGBRAI main campground in the next town. So if you're riding with RAGBRAI, you know the distance is 71.9 miles, no more, no less, if you stay at one campground and in the other. Now, if you ride your bike around the towns or you make a wrong turn, those mileages do add up. We do have a century day. The way I've been building centuries is it's at the, towards the end of the day in order to get more people to ride a century and maybe do their first century. Because it gives them the option of, if they're feeling good, they can hit the century at the end of the day. But what happens is if you do it in the beginning of the day, you now get towards the end and you've lost your legs, you're tired, but you still have to finish. So it gives them the option of riding later in the day. Gravel is always a big option. I think last year we had 80 some miles of gravel. The year before we had 50 some miles of gravel. I'm biased, but I believe we have the best gravel in the nation, hands down, probably the most gravel in the nation. So it's showcasing all the different sides of gravel. But I also understand that, we can't do a 50-mile day every day. We're going to have short days. We're going to have long days. I want to find consistent days so you're not back to back to back long days or back to back short days. But it really plays out with where the route starts and how we get there at the end. I've also learned that, if you're taking a charter bus home, sometimes these charter buses are leaving at 2:00 in the afternoon on the last day. So trying to find ways to have a shorter last day so we can get you on a bus and you guys be able to dip your tires is always going to be a focus. Depending on the end town, depending on where we're coming from, that's not always an option, but it is something we're always looking for. So the goal that we have is to provide you with the safest route possible, put you on the best roads possible, and, partnering with the DOT, the State Patrol, and all the counties work together to make sure that you have a great experience.
I think that's about as full circle as you can get. That was start to finish. Corey's got to chime in there too.
Yeah, I gotta leave with a fun one here. So I was just reading through the town hall submitted questions, and one of the questions was, have you ever considered having a 5K run during RAGBRAI? Maybe get one in an overnight town. Well, I'm kind of a hardcore guy and I like to, ride hard and everything too. But doing a 5K along with RAGBRAI might be a bit much. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that would do it. I would like to put this challenge out there though. For those of you that don't know, I am, like I said earlier, I'm in the campgrounds with the baggage crew, and I have 10 high school kids that haul the bags, haul your bags all week long, load and unload, and they put in a lot of work. And a couple of the guys this year decided after unloading bags that they were going to go out and race one of our riders and do that. They did it a couple nights, actually went out and ran with her. So if you guys want to put on a 5K, meet us in the campgrounds. We'll have our own little unofficial RAGBRAI 5K. How's that sound?
I love it. I will not be signing up for that, and I won't even be on a bike during RAGBRAI, but you guys have fun. AP?
If you run during RAGBRAI, is that RAGBRAI?
Yeah.
RAGBRAI? Yeah.
I ran during it.
I just want, see, some people do. I just wanted to put in a plug. If you asked a question that we didn't answer on this town hall, I encourage you to listen to the Just Go Bike podcast. Murph and I will do a recap of the town hall, and we'll make sure we cover all the questions that didn't get answered. And you can find us at ragbrai.com/justgobike.
You can find their content all year round, always answering all things RAGBRAI, and they do a really good job at keeping things relevant, depending on what you're needing throughout that time of year. So with that, that's all the questions I think we have submitted so far. So we will end here a couple minutes early. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Again, that next town hall will be November 13th, always at that 6:30 time. And we look forward to seeing you then and opening registration just a couple days later. Everyone have a great night.